Good morning to one and all present over here. Today we will see about calcium hydroxide. So Pamukkale is a lake in Turkey which has a rich source of calcium hydroxide. So coming on to history, calcium hydroxide was introduced by Hermann in the year 1920 in dentistry. In 1938, Tuscher Zander introduced calcium hydroxide in US, histologically confirmed the presence of complete dentin bridging with healthy radicular pulps. In 1983, Gazia et al. He introduced calcium hydroxide as an intracanal medicament. So coming on to chemical composition, so calcium hydroxide has a chemical formula CaOH twice. It has a compressive strength of 10 to 27 megapascals, tensile strength of 1 megapascal, and modulus of elasticity of calcium hydroxide is 0.37 gigapascals per meter square, and its molecular weight is 74.08. It has solubility of up to 1.2 grams per liter at 25 degrees Celsius, and it increases with rise in temperature. It has a pH of 12.5 to 12.8 in its purest form. So coming on to types of calcium hydroxide, based on its setting mechanism, it is classified into setting and non-setting. And based on the curing mechanism, chemical cure and light cure. Based on application, we classify calcium hydroxide as liner or base, pulp capping agent, intracanal medicament, and sealer. So coming on to various applications of calcium hydroxide, it can be used as a liner or base as we just saw, pulp capping agent, and it can be used in apexification. It can be used as intracanal medicament, as an endodontic sealer, and to repair inflammatory resorption. So coming on to calcium hydroxide as cavity liner, it is suspended in a solvent carrier with thickening agent. When placed on pulpal floor, the solvent evaporates and leaves a thin film of calcium hydroxide. It neutralizes the acids that migrate towards the pulp, and in this process it induces reparative dentin formation. So coming on to Dicel, which is a commercial name for fast-setting calcium hydroxide used as liner. It was introduced in 1979. It is used in deep cavities as a liner or pulp capping material. Advantages of Dicel is it has a high early strength, excellent handling properties, it's completely radio opaque, and is rigid and self-setting. So coming on to calcium hydroxide as base, it's two-phase system. The composition of it is as a base. It consists of tribasic calcium phosphate, zinc oxide or glycol salicylate, and the catalyst consists of calcium hydroxide, zinc oxide and zinc stearate. Radio opacifier is barium sulfate, and calcium tungstate acts as filler. So coming on to setting reaction, calcium hydroxide and salicylate reacts with each other giving calcium disalicylate. Coming on to properties of calcium hydroxide, so working time depends upon moisture, it's generally between 3 to 5 minutes, whereas in mouth it sets between 1 to 2 minutes. So coming on to compressive strength at 7 minutes and 1 hour and 24 hours. So at 7 minutes it's 6 megapascals, and 1 hour it has a compressive strength of about 10 megapascals, at 24 hours 14 to 20 megapascals. And coming on to tensile strength at 7 minutes, 1 hour and 24 hours. At 7 minutes it has a tensile strength of 1.5 megapascals, and till 1 hour it will be remaining same at 1.5 megapascals. At 24 hours it has a tensile strength of 1.7 to 2 megapascals. So coming on to light activated calcium hydroxide, light cured calcium hydroxide liner. So composition of it is calcium hydroxide and barium sulfate dispersed in urethane dimethacrylate resin. Initiator is camphoraquinone. Advantages of light activated calcium hydroxide is it has an improved strength, essentially no solubility in acids, minimal solubility in water, and it has better control over working time. So coming on to calcium hydroxide as pulp capping agent, calcium hydroxide is an antibacterial agent and it pulpal stimulant. That is, it stimulates the production of reparative dentin. So how does it form as a calcium mechanism of action of calcium hydroxide as pulp capping agent is that it splits into calcium ion and hydroxyl ions. This calcium ion stimulates calcium carbonate in the wound area and induces mineralization, whereas this hydroxyl ions causes chemical injury to the adjacent tissues. It forms zone of firm necrosis, that is Croder's layer or Stanley's mummified zone of about 0.3 to 0.7 mm thick. This irritation stimulates the odontoblast to differentiate and form a tissue that resembles dentin, which in turn causes dystrophic calcification of zone of necrosis and degenerated cells in the adjacent tissue. So coming on to mineralization activity of calcium hydroxide, the hydroxyl group provides an alkaline pH, and this alkaline pH neutralizes lactic acid from osteoclasts, so preventing dissolution of mineral components of dentin. In turn, it activates alkaline phosphatase enzyme, which causes hard tissue formation between 8.6 to 10.3 pH. So how does it form? Is this alkaline phosphatase splits into separate phosphoric esters, which in turn forms freeing phosphate ions. This phosphate ions plus the calcium from the bloodstream helps in respiration of calcium phosphate in inorganic matrix, which is similar to that of the hydroxyapatite. So now coming on to calcium hydroxide as an intracranial medicament. So as we saw about the mineralization activity of calcium hydroxide. So now we will see the function of calcium hydroxide as intracranial medicament. It has broad spectrum antibacterial activity and it induces apical closure and through cementogenesis. So as intracranial medicament, since it has broad spectrum antibacterial activity, it can be placed as intracranial medicament in between the root canal treatment appointments. So coming on to biological effects, it has strong antibacterial action at the pH of 12.5. The hydroxyl ion causes damages to the bacterial cytoplasmic membrane, causes protein denaturation and damage to the DNA of bacteria. So as root canal sealer, so it has increased working time. Advantages: it inhibits root resorption and also inhibits osteoclastic activity. So now coming on to the vehicles which can be mixed along with calcium hydroxide for its usage, for its action. So we have the water soluble vehicles which include water, saline, anesthetic solution, carboxymethyl cellulose and ringer solution, and viscous vehicles like glycerin, polyethylene glycol and propylene glycol can also be used. And we also have pure oil based vehicles like olive oil, silicone oil of camphorated parachlorophenol, fatty acids like oleic acid, linoleic acid, isosteric acid, eugenol, and methacrylate acetate. Thank you.